When Sallie Krawcheck was starting her career as a Wall Street analyst, her first report presented a highly negative view of a company she was covering, a company that everybody else thought was in a period of massive growth. So Sallie's colleagues urged her not to publish the report. An executive of the company that she was reporting on told her it was a huge mistake to publish the report. But Sallie had integrity and published it anyway because she saw a weak spot in the company's lending business that others were missing. And lo and behold, the company's next earning report turned out to be even worse than Sallie had predicted. What Sallie learned early on is that being a visionary often means going against the crowd, being contrarian. As a visionary, you're seeing a picture of a future that doesn't exist yet. So what you're saying often makes no sense to anybody else because they can't see what they can't see. So as Sallie moved up the Wall Street ranks, she often found herself as both the only woman in the room and the only person in the room who would go up against the status quo. Sallie realized that these two things were connected. As a woman in an industry that was so male-oriented, her perspective was unique. But even her ability to see what others weren't seeing, her ability to see what others weren't seeing, helped her become the CEO of firms like Smith Barney and Merrill Lynch Wealth Management. Her visionary ideas often garnered the same response as her first research report. Sallie, are you crazy? Sallie, that's not how we do things here. Come on, get with the program. Or another way to put it, Sallie was an amazing entrepreneur in waiting, ready to happen. Indeed, when Sallie pitched Wall Street firms of the idea of creating a money management service oriented towards women, they just couldn't see it. Never mind that women control $7 trillion of investable assets. Never mind that 90% of women manage their own money at some point in their lives. And the firms that Sallie pitched, they just weren't interested. So Sallie ended up pursuing the vision herself. And now, today, in addition to being the chair of the Ellevate Network, a professional women's network with over 135,000 members, close. She's also the chair of PAC's Ellevate Global Women's Leadership Fund, which is a fund that invests in top-rated companies that advance women. Sallie is the co-founder of the online digital advisor Ellevest, a fast-growing startup that has attracted investors like Melinda Gates, Eric Schmidt, and Broadway Angels. For Sallie, the goal with Ellevest is both to tap into a huge market potential that has been underserved by Wall Street and not served well, and to close the gender investing gap that is one of the main reasons why, on average, women save less money for retirement than men do. In her pursuits of this vision, she's leveraging the lessons learned from her own experiences on Wall Street. Namely, more diverse workforces mean less groupthink and better outcomes. 2/3 of Ellevest employees and half of its engineering staff are women. 40% of the employees are people of color. And Sallie says she even deliberately cultivates cognitive diversity, balancing optimists with pessimists and creatives with analytics. In a lot of ways, this attempt to maximize differences counters to the standards of Silicon Valley behavior. And I think it's important for Silicon Valley to learn from Sallie and Ellevest as a new pattern for successful startups. In Silicon Valley, startups often prioritize culture fit, recruiting people with similar backgrounds, training, and perspectives. Silicon Valley needs to make critical progress on shifting culture fit to culture evolution, where focus is always on intelligent, committed diversity that creates success. That is why I am thrilled to introduce Sallie tonight, as Silicon Valley Forum honors her with this year's Visionary Awards. I want you all to hear about her vision about the future, and I want you all to learn what she's seeing that we can't see quite yet. And I want you all to see what our future of Silicon Valley can look like. Ladies and gentlemen, Sallie Krawcheck.
I know I stand between y'all and your second glass of wine and your dinner. I totally understand that. But first, I want to thank you so much to Silicon Valley Forum for this recognition and this award. I feel like a fish out of water because I'm a New Yorker. I don't know Silicon Valley very well, but I think it's a big deal, right? I'm pretty sure this is a big deal, so that's exciting. And thank you so much to Sonia for your kind comments, and thank you in particular for your belief in us in Ellevest at a time when people were like, I don't know about this woman and investing thing. So let me ask you a question that we think about a lot at Ellevest. I want everybody to think immediately of all the bad things that happen when women have more money. And I want you just to start yelling them out. Just scream them out. Go. You know, someone always says shopping, and it's usually a woman, and I think Julie would tell us if we're shopping in the right places, that in fact is a good thing. But yes, when women have more money, the economy grows. When women have more money, the markets are healthier. When women have more money, equality becomes closer for us. When women have more money, it's good for our daughters who have more money in turn. It's good for our sons. It's good for our families. It's good for nonprofits because we women tend to give away a larger percentage of our income. It's good for men when women have more money. There's nothing bad that happens when women have more money. In fact, I would challenge all of us. Do any of us in this room believe that we would be in a Me Too and Time's Up moment if women had as much money as men do? The answer is no, because in a capitalist society as well, money is power. And there's not a woman on this planet or a man who would have sat in some of those rooms and felt like they had to stay if they'd had as much money, as much power as men do. In fact, so it's important getting more money to women on a macro level. It's important on a micro level. Today, money is women's #1 source of stress. And in an environment in which we celebrate physical wellness, emotional wellness, spiritual wellness in a life well lived, without financial wellness, those things fall away. And so at Ellevest, we're all about getting more money into the hands of women. A lot of attention about the gender pay gap. It's important. A lot of advice to us women: lean in, know your worth, take the seat at the table, you go, girl. And in fact, the gender pay gap, which is important, you know, they'll sort of piss you off at 82 cents on a man's dollar, much less for a woman of color, decades away from closing for white women, 100+ years for black women, 200+ years for Latinx women. Maybe you can squint in and say, well, at least it's closing. The gender wealth gap is 32 cents on a man's dollar, and it's going in the wrong direction. And the reason for that difference is we as women tend to have more debt than men do, and that compounds. And we as women invest less than men do, and that lack of investing compounds. And so I spent my career on Wall Street at some of the big storied firms. And Julie, you talked about numbers when it comes to women in venture capital. Well, we sit here today when 86% of financial advisors are men, overwhelmingly white, 98% of mutual fund dollars are managed by men, overwhelmingly white. P.S. I love white men. I've been married to a couple of them. I think they're amazing. So talented, middle-aged white dudes, but honestly, 98%, when the research shows us that women are actually better investors, certainly as good but better investors than men. And so we have an industry, much like venture capital, that's a money industry. We have an industry, Wall Street, an investing industry, that's overwhelmingly men. And so what we fight at Ellevest is the narrative around women and money is one that we have internalized as women that leads us astray when it comes to money. It is essentially, the investing industry is as it is, but you women, you're just so risk averse. You need more financial education. You're not good with math. You're not as good at investing. And we, of course, because we love to get our A's at school, internalize this and work harder. Here's the problem with that line of reasoning. None of it's true. None of it's true. And at Ellevest, I think we were really the first that looked at this and said, what if it's not our fault? What if instead an industry that is 98% men was built by men for men? That was built as a sport, investing as a sport. That was built based on this sort of fun jargon that had an industry symbol as a bull. Right? Am I right about the bull? Like you might as well say, stay away, ladies. I don't know of a single woman that said, you know, my two favorite brands are the Real and the Bull. It just doesn't happen. And so we were really the first that went out there and said, maybe it's not our fault. Maybe, what if we build a company that's built around what women are looking for? And I started at the age of 50. And so, as with Julie, experienced so much of the, but do women need their own thing? If it's for women, isn't going to be dumbed down remedial financial education. I still hear, this isn't a tech play, it's a marketing play. First of all, yes, but both. And there's nothing wrong with having strong marketing, but it can go with strong technology. I still hear, on almost a daily basis, what if a competitor gets in? Somehow there can be dozens and dozens and dozens of multi-billion-dollar investment, wealth tech, wealth management firms serving mostly men, but there's room for only one for women. And so what we're trying to do, as you all are trying to do, is prove this by executing. But more importantly, prove this by changing women's lives. Because let me tell you, the gender investing gap, which costs the women in this room, certainly hundreds of thousands, for some of us millions of dollars over the course of our lives. Not only is that relieving the stress, but that money, if we can help women invest, that money is leave the job I hate money, start the business I'm dreaming about money, leave the relationship that no longer works for me money, and take your hand off my fucking leg money. And so we at Ellevest are all about changing these gender equations. And the reason everyone in this room cares is even for us, maybe it's too late, but there's not a single solitary one of us who wants our daughters to have fewer opportunities and fewer options than our sons. Thank you.